Right now there's a whole bunch of people talking about some ostriches, and 400 of them or something like that. And everybody's jumping on the ostrich bandwagon. I wonder how many of them know that the ostrich industry is a big farm business in some places. China, they grow. It's a multi-million-dollar business. How many of the people that are on this ostrich bandwagon recognize that? Most of them are just paying attention to how the birds dance. Hi there, Neil here, the Twisted Light Worker. Ostrich Madness. Gotta save them damn birds. Tell you a little bit about the ostrich industry. A lot of the people who are hoping to help save those birds are tied into the emotional side of the operation, what's really going on. It's really more a political thing than it is about the birds. And one of the biggest fighters of this corruption is Kathy O'Brien. I'm going to introduce you to her in a little bit later in the video. Kathy is a real fighter. You think that the farmer's the fighter. You ought to see what Kathy's been up against. You're going to be surprised when I get to that part of this talk. What do I know about the ostrich industry? In 1995, I started selling ostriches for 4 farms in Alberta. I was flying back and forth to open up the ostrich market in Ontario. Why was there going to be a market in Ontario? Well, birds were very adaptable to the winters here, believe it or not. Yeah, the farmers had to do a few things in order to kick in the raising of the birds in the spring to help them jump into mating season and start producing eggs. They had to put them in plastic-covered greenhouses. And once they had the sun coming in February, they would start to lay eggs, and that would make it. As long as they had the greenhouse for that part of the winter, from November right on through to January, they'd be in the greenhouse, and they'd start to lay eggs early. And they had the runs in the winter. They could go outside, too. They could run outside. And I've seen ostriches in the wintertime, they'd be sitting down in a snowbank. And then they'd get up to go eat or go run, and the steam would come off where they were laying. So the ostrich are incredibly adaptable. And heard stories that they found ostrich bones in parts of Central Europe. So maybe at one time the ostriches roamed the whole Earth realm. Who knows? We weren't there, so we can't be certain about what was going on at that time. But the ostrich farming industry was quite interesting. I sold the birds from Alberta farms, and I flew the chicks, 3-month-old chicks, and got to the other end where the plane flew. I flew out, and the farmer and I got together, and we got them birds tucked away on the farms. And I even hauled a couple loads of adult birds from Calgary to Montreal. We made one trip hauling them in the wintertime. So I do know a little bit about the ostrich. And the ostrich industry had potential. And it's an amazing potential. And by the end of this video, you're going to see that the farming industry side of the whole ostrich industry is huge. The potential's big time there. Big time there. Now, the ostriches are from a family called ratite. Now, there's 4 ratite birds on the whole Earth realm that I'm aware of. What does ratite mean? They're flightless. They can't fly. They have no breastbone like a chicken. So you don't have a wishbone. There's no breastbone. They have a rib cage like an animal. And like an animal, they have red meat. So they don't have white meat like a turkey or a chicken or a quail or anything along that nature. It's red meat, tastes and looks just like beef. So the potential for an ostrich farming industry is worldwide. In fact, China right now, there's some big farms over there, and it's a multi-million-dollar business. We'll get into that in a bit. But this whole thing about saving the birds, people have to realize that it's all about a fight against the government. It's a fight against the corruption, just like 𝓘𝓷𝓽𝓻𝓸𝓭𝓾. A fight against corruption, big time, big time. But the industry itself was quite fascinating. We have the leather industry. And the leather industry, believe it or not, is the biggest market. It is the biggest market. And it's very tricky to tan an ostrich hide. There's a process. They had to be very delicate with scraping the inside of the hide off so that it did not open the quill pockets. We had to make sure that the quill pockets remained closed. So the process of tanning an ostrich hide is extremely delicate, and it takes skilled techniques and things of that nature to make sure that they keep the quill pockets closed. And then, of course, they have to put them through a chemical bath, just like any other. But the distinctive bumps from the quill pockets is what designers like. And leather, it'll sell for up to $35 a square foot. So it's an extremely expensive leather. And it takes on all kinds of colors too. It can be stained any color. And it absorbed the stains quite well when the factories knew what they were doing when they were making the leather. So there's some beautiful hides come out of an ostrich. And the quill pockets, like I said, the designers love it. And designers use it for all kinds of things, from purses to wallets to belts to even car seats. And you can see here that the different colors and the different quill pockets, they're quite distinctive. And the leather is really soft and subtle. And there, you can see that was the neck on the wallets. You can see the neck on the wallets is different because it didn't have any quill pockets, because the ostrich, the necks are rather bare. So it was a whole different part of the leather. And the whole thing had to be saved so that they could capitalize on all aspects of the leather market. It's huge industry. And like I said, the designers love it because the quill pockets make it really look unique. And altogether, the leather industry, like in cattle, is the biggest part of the industry. People think that when they sell a cow that the biggest industry is in the meat. No, it's the leather. The leather is where the money's made. Leather is where the money is made. And the process was just starting to take off in North America. It was just at the cusp of taking off. The farmers had the herds built up so that they could open up a market and actually become something. There's another example of the neck. It's beautiful the way the neck is tanned. A little bit different though with the meat. The meat, like I said, the chefs loved it. It's low fat, low cholesterol, less fat than turkey and chicken, and a healthy red meat looks and tastes just like beef. The chefs loved it because it took on all of the marinades that they wanted to put in for seasoning and marinate the meat with. And the most important thing is make sure you didn't overcook it. Being that it had no fat, it would be really dry if you overcooked it. And you really don't want to get into overcooking ostrich because, let me tell you, it's not going to be something that you would enjoy because it would be dry as popcorn without any butter. It would be dry as popcorn without any butter. So, that's a little bit about the industry. It's huge potential. China, it's big. Biggest farm that I'm aware of in Africa has got over 1,000 birds on it. And they're not quite as friendly as all the videos online make them out to be. They make them out to be pets. Well, let me tell you a little bit about that side. One of the farmers that I worked for selling the birds, he had a 9.5-foot redneck ostrich. There's 3 kinds of ostrich. You've got the redneck, the blue neck, and the African black. The African black produced the most eggs, but they were the smallest. And the blue necks were a little bigger, but the red necks was the biggest. One farmer I worked with, like I said, he had a 9.5 foot tall redneck ostrich. And when they do that dance where they flutter and have their wings out to the side like that, and they move their head from side to side, that's a territorial and a mating signal. And you don't want to mess with a rooster when he's got his territory with his two hens, because farmers found that the best way to raise them was put them in trios. One rooster could fertilize the eggs of two hens quite easily. So they had them in trios in their greenhouses and in their runs. And this 9.5 foot bird, 9.5 foot tall bird, he had a gate on his fence, and the gate was made out of aspenite, 5/8 inch thick chipboard. And that bird come running over when he was standing by the gate, and he started to flutter like this. And then he stood up, and the way the ostrich legs go, just like your arm, and that bird stood up and went bang right into the gate. And you know, in that 5/8 inch chipboard, blew a hole this big. Blew a hole this big, because an ostrich has big toes, 2 big toes, and the biggest one, and it has just like a cow hoof or a horse hoof, how hard they are. And he blew that hole right in that aspenite. Now, if that would have hit the farmer right in the chest at that level, because it was right at chest level, would have killed him. And all the videos that I've watched online, none of them have exposed the fact that they're tricky to raise. They're not pets. They're not something that you can go play with. When they're in their youth and when they're first year, you can still do that. But when they step into the adult stage and they start to pair off with their hens, that's when the farmer would put them in a pen with 2 hens and a rooster and make a trio out of it for farming practices. That is when they would become very protective of their hens and their territory. One story I heard, when they were moving them, one big rooster that was known to be a little bit more aggressive than some of them was in the flock in the arena where they were sorting them. They were putting them in quarantine so they could move them from one country to another. And one of the deckhands was out in the field or in the arena with the birds, and the bird, one of them, that mean one, started coming at him. And so he started to run, but he knew he wouldn't be able to run faster than the ostrich. He took his hat off and threw it. And the ostrich was running along and stopped and watched the hat go. Ostriches are dumb. They have smaller brains than their eyes. And so some of the times when they're in their youth and they're coming up to the farmer and you think you're playing with them, they're really, it's a mating call. It's a mating call. And so, and they're not going to mate with a human. So they're a wild animal, and you do have to be careful, just like cows. Some cows you don't want to be in a pen with some cows when they're calving, or some bulls you don't want to be around. Others are quite friendly. So there's a little similarity between the ostrich and the other birds. But we have to remember what this whole ostrich madness is about. It's about the corruption of the government. Think about it. One ostrich trio with 2 black ostriches that produced 80 to 120 eggs in a season. 2 trios would replace those 400 birds that they're after everybody to fund to protect. No, we're not here to fund and protect birds. Pay attention. This is about the corruption of the government. And we want to have good fighters that are against the government. We don't need a whole bunch of emotional people who are in love with the birds. Most people don't know, but there were, my gosh, there were something like Oh, there's Kathy. I'll get to her in a second. Most people don't know about the corruption of the government and what they've done. Did you know that there was 150,000 or more chickens killed because they tried to say that the bird flu was in them? Bird flu. I tell you, if the bird flu was in the chickens, there's only one reason it would be there, and that's because every chick, when it's hatched in a chicken hatchery, they're all injected with a so-called vaccine, an antibacteria thing. What's in that? What's in that? We don't know. The corruption's deep in this planet. We're fighting against a really corrupt system. And that's what this saving the ostrich is all about. It's not about the birds. That's right. It's not about saving the birds. It's about taking down a corrupt government system. That's what this fight's really about. That's what this fight's really about. And that's where Kathy comes into play. Kathy is one of the biggest fighters that I've ever met or ever heard of. I haven't met her. I've watched a number of her talks. There's a picture of Kathy when she was promoting a book she wrote in the early 90s, early to mid 90s. What was that book about? What was that book about? There's Kathy today. And this particular picture was from 22 or 23, 2023. Yeah, February of 2023. Kathy O'Brien. She's a real fighter. She is a real fighter. What corruption is she exposing? And what corruption is she fighting about? A picture says 1,000 words. Be ready. This is maybe a little bit difficult for you to take a look at, but it's only 30 seconds. So this is what Kathy's fighting about. Told you it would be hard to stomach. Kathy was MK Ultra, and she exposed the corruption with the Clinton family in the 90s in her book. She was trafficked. She was drugged and abused and trafficked. Her book in the 90s exposed a whole bunch of people at the top who were into the human trafficking. And in the human trafficking, there's satanic rituals, there's organ sales, and there's even drinking of human blood, and worse. The MK Ultra program that Kathy was put through, and so was her child. She ended up with a child, and her child went through it. Total brainwash through MK Ultra programming. And the gentleman decided to save her and her child, and they took off and they hid from the evil ones. And for years she kept quiet. She wrote her book and promoted it so that everybody knew what was going on. She exposed some corruption in the 90s, the Clinton Foundation, and they were involved in the human trafficking. She said that her and Hillary abused her. Bill only a couple times, but Hillary was a lesbian. Maybe that's why she really didn't give a hoot about Bill with Monica. The ostrich industry is only a part of the corruption that we're fighting. Very few people who are fighting the ostrich, fighting for the ostrich, understand what the big picture really is. The big picture is fighting a corrupt system. I have 2 talks of Kathy made, and one of them was her talk promoting her book in the 90s, and another one with the picture there was from her talk in 2023. I'll put the link to that video in the description below. I encourage you to take a look at it. Listen to how Kathy talks, how her life is now. Kathy's a true fighter. Kathy's a true hero. How many of you people who are fighting to save the ostrich realize that it's the corruption of the government that we're really fighting with? We're fighting the corruption. We're not trying to save the birds, although that's a part of it. 150,000 chickens slaughtered for bird flu. Nobody said anything. So what happened to the ostrich industry in North America? Well, we just had the herds built up to a point where there was enough birds to meet the processing. There was a consortium of investors pooled $100 million, and they had offers to purchase on 4 meat processing plants throughout North America, and they wanted to do the same in Canada. But what happened? They had the offers to purchase subject to a feasibility study, and I never saw the documents, but the rumor has it they put $600,000 into a feasibility study. And they agreed that if the study came on, they would all meet, pool their money, bring their lawyers, sign all the paperwork, and get it going if the feasibility study was favorable. It came out favorable. They were going to be able to get their money back. So they had a date picked. They were all going to meet and get the whole thing rolling, make all the farmers happy, make all the farmers satisfied with the fact that they risked building up the flocks. And then the one shareholder kicked the bucket before they had the chance to meet and sign all the paperwork. The other 12 couldn't do it without him, and so they let the whole idea fall to the wayside. Farmers heard that story and bailed out. Did you know that there were tens of thousands of ostrich the farmers all processed and ate their losses, literally, ate the meat. Some of them made leather out of the hides, but most of them didn't bother even doing that. They just ate the meat, got out of the industry. Had they continued for another 2 years, no doubt it would have even been better, because more than one person would have, one group of people would have made the ostrich industry happen in North America. It took off and is doing millions of dollars, multi-million industry, $1 million industry in China right now. Selling the leather is the big component. Africa sells a lot of their meat into Europe, and of course, high-end leather comes out of Africa as well. So I encourage all of the people who are involved in this ostrich madness to realize that what it is we're really fighting. We're not fighting to save the birds. We're fighting to take down a corrupt legal system. We're fighting to get rid of a corrupt government. And it's happening from the North Pole to the South Pole and all aspects, right from the politics to money market. The whole industry, the whole world is making changes. And they're positive. It sounds like I'm sharing only negative, but no, definitely not. God is winning this war. And light is way stronger than darkness. Those who fear the darkness have no idea what the light can do. By 2030, we will have the gold standard in place. We're getting rid of the fiat currency. And by 2030, our agenda, not the globalist agenda, will be in place. So I encourage you to learn some common law. Pay attention to what the big picture is all about. Stop using your emotions to make your decisions on. Use some research and critical thinking skills. Our corrupt legal system starts with corrupt education system. We've been brainwashed into not knowing how to research, not knowing how to think critically. And most of all, we have lost our ability to observe what's going on around us. Observation skills come first, otherwise you've got nothing to research. Observation skills come first, otherwise you have nothing to think critically about. Learn to see the big picture. Fight to take down the corrupt government. That is what the Ostrich Madness is truly about. Are you awake? This great awakening is going to be amazing when it all comes together, and there's so many pieces of the puzzle being put together behind the scenes right here, right now. And it's happening from the North Pole to the South. And we're all going to wake up to our potential, to who we are on the inside. The Great Awakening. The Great Awakening. Waking up to the potential of who you are on the inside. That spark of the divine that's inside each and every single cell of your body. And so from the spark of the divine that's inside each cell in my body to you, I wish you and yours peace profound.